I'm live. Hello, everybody. Is anybody there? If you are there, type a sentence, a hello. I want to make sure it's being recorded,
Is there anything like a red button flat showing or anything like what? Says there's 4 people watching.
4 people.
So
Awesome. It's good to see everybody, which I can't see you. Hi.
maybe another minute.
Nice. Thanks to my wife, my tech support, who got our camera and our microphone working. All right, everybody. Going to start here in just about a minute. All right, know thyself. Great to see you. Thomas is on. Know thyself. CG777 is on. Awesome. Okay. All right. Hey, there's Carol. Okay, everybody. I think we're going to go ahead and get started here. Let's see here. Well, my name is Peter Haskins. Thank you, Emil. My name is Peter Haskins, and we have met here through this YouTube station and called Esoteric Circle, and it has been a pleasure to start to connect with you through this new way. This is a brand new way for me to connect with people. Just to get a little introduction here in terms of who I am, and in addition to the videos that I've been doing here over the last couple of years. But I am an ordained United Church of Christ pastor, and I grew up in the United Methodist Church here in the United States, and so grew up in a very traditional background in terms of mainline Christianity. And I always felt out of place, and to some extent I still do feel out of place. And this talk that we're going to have this morning is going to be hopefully connecting with you on this level of how we feel about the world, how we feel about how we fit in, and what all these teachings in the fourth way and Gnosticism and Orthodoxy have to do with our ability to fit in, and how the church, to some extent, as it is, the outer church is a real failure at conveying this. But what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to connect with one another so that we can begin to apply some of these things, so that we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and so to speak. And all of these teachings have to do with one thing, and that's what we're going to be getting at. This is going to be about a 45-minute talk, and we're going to be hopefully talking about what we can do next. My goal is to continue to do these live YouTube, and hopefully get to a point where we can start to meet in person, and maybe have some of you who are far away to be connected with us through Zoom. And in the process of that, we will be connecting with each other in a whole different way. So this is, forgive me for kind of stumbling over my words, but this is a whole new way of communicating for me. I'm used to doing this in person. So this is a little bit different for me, but I'm very excited, and the energy here. We've got a great group here already. Just very happy with how many are showing up. So just to have you guys here, it's just amazing. So so just to continue with my background, I was brought up in the Protestant church and the Methodist church, and all of a sudden I got to the end of my college, and I had a very strong call to ministry, and I felt the presence of God. I felt very much like this is what I needed to do, was the ministry. And everything I love to do in life, public speaking and studies and all this, counseling, was contained in that one job. So I went to seminary. And when I got to seminary, I met a guy named Charles Ashton, and I actually have his picture right here. This is Charles. This is the guy that started it all for me. And my first semester was his last semester there at Christian Theological Seminary in Indianapolis, Indiana. And he was this mystical, charismatic character who was clairvoyant and had many, many gifts. And he spoke with an accent, Serbian accent. He was Montenegrin, from Montenegrin royalty, actually. And I was fascinated by him. It was like a character out of Star Wars or out of Tolkien. And I was like, yes, this guy has what I want. And he began to open up places inside myself and began to answer some of the questions that I had regarding, what does it mean to pray without ceasing? What does it mean to pray without ceasing? What does it mean to truly be transformed into a new being, as Paul said? What does it mean? And I found out that the other professors there at the seminary had no answer for it, but Charles did. And he introduced me to Ted Nottingham. I don't know if any of you know Ted. I think several of you do know Ted through his teachings. And I've been kind of a disciple of Ted for many years, and just really want to give him credit for giving me this, surrounding me with this. But it all started with Charles. And then I was led to Robin Amos. And Robin Amos is the guy that really taught me through 3 separate retreats how to pray. And he was a big fourth way guy, and a big Orthodox guy, and realized that the fourth way and Orthodoxy just were intermingled in such a wonderful way, which Ouspensky knew about. Toward the end of his life, he was just starting to get that idea. Still don't know about Gurdjieff in terms of where he got all of his information, but also Boris Moraviev. Now, Robin Amos was a huge Boris Moraviev fan. And one of the things that I started really reading early on was the Gnosis trilogy. And the Gnosis trilogy was what opened me up to this idea that the fourth way and Orthodoxy and Christianity all intermingled. And that's what I want to continue to talk about in terms of how to apply this stuff and realize, if you're going to hear anything today, realize that Christianity is much, much deeper than we give it credit for. Christianity has roots in an esoteric tradition which run very, very deep. And that's one of the things I want to do, is I want to be able to offer what I know at this point in my life. I'm 53 years old, and the way the world is going, and how things, it's a very frightening time to be living. And at the same time, it's a very exciting time to be living, because there's so much change happening. And we have to get word out that there is life within Christianity. Here in the United States, Christianity is just at a low point. We have been inundated by politics, and politics has taken it over, and it is crazy. And it's very difficult to get the word out that there is an inner church when everything that you see is about politics and outward moral behavior. And people are hungry for an inner experience of this. Now, all of these books that we talk about, all of these books with the Fourth Way, with Gnosticism, and with the Cappadocian Fathers and Orthodoxy, all of it has to do with one thing. Has to do with us getting to a sense of being and a sense of authentic life. And this authentic life has to start with something. And the entire foundation of everything that we're doing here really rests on this idea that within us, we are all born with an element of Christ within us. And we are all born with, whether it's called the Logos, or in the book of John, or whether it's called the magnetic center in the Fourth Way, there's something within each of us which is absolutely precious. It is an element of God. And that's why I'm into Pierre Teilhard de Chardin with the Christique element and all of these. The common theme that is running through all of these is this, that there's an element within you that is godlike. Now, the Orthodox have this process of growing through our Christianity. See, in Protestantism, and this is the thing that always gets me, in the Protestant church, we have this idea that all you have to do is go up to the altar. I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but you're in a worship service and they have an altar call. And you go up to the altar and you say, I give my life to Christ, and I'm going to turn a new leaf, and I'm going to change, and poof, it's done. And in the Protestant church, we have this process of baptism where you can just go up and you can just be baptized. Well, in the early church, there was this process that you had to go through, this process of awakening this Christique element, this Logos element, this magnetic center had to be developed within each of us. One of the things that is wrong with the church is that we think that all we have to do is make a decision at one point. At one point in time, we've made that decision, and all of a sudden we're there. We don't have to work on ourselves. And one of the things that I have learned is that this is a process. This esoteric process is a lifelong process of awakening this element within us. And that's what I'm doing with these live YouTube sessions here, is beginning to share this with you and share some of these things that when I first started this stuff, it was only for a few people. And I had to go to England 3 times to get this stuff. And those were huge efforts. And I'm sharing this with you because I feel like the time is here that I need to share this with you. And I don't need to just sit here and make broad generalizations. I don't need to hide this. I need to share this with you. And through our community that I'm hoping that we can begin to cultivate here, I can share some of these things that I learned with Robin. Now, Robin has passed away. As the Orthodox say, he's gone to sleep. Charles is gone. The people who I have relied on are gone. I need to share these things, and that's what I'm wanting to do. And I'm really just pushing this because, I'm a pastor of a church, and I talk about this from the pulpit. And there are some people in my church who are interested, but you all are here too. And I want to begin to cultivate this and let you know that it is a process. It is not a one-time deal. It is not just about purifying the body. It is about awakening this logos. Now, in the fourth way teachings, um, they talk about this process. And by the way, does anyone know why it's called the fourth way? If anybody wants to make any comments and any questions, please do so. I don't see any yet, but this process of the fourth way, our existence is centered around three different types of existence. And the first is through the body, which is exemplified in what is called the fakir. The second is through the intellect, which is exemplified by the monk. And the third is through the yogi, which is the emotional center. And what Gurdjieff is saying, and what true orthodoxy is saying, and what Gnosticism is saying, is that there is an opportunity for us to intermingle all three of these, because before, in the past 2,000 or 3,000 years, you did have the opportunity to focus on one of those aspects, and just going through the physical, the motor center, which is what Moraviev calls it, the motor center, the intellectual center, and then the emotional center. What is going on here is that the fourth way, which is the fourth way, is intermingling all of those. And one of the things that Robin taught us, and this is one of the things I want to share, this is something new, is that the one of the keys of, let's say, a monastery. We don't have the luxury to go to a monastery, do we? We can't just drop everything, right? I mean, I've got a house payment, right? I've got kids to put through college. One of them, he's watching now, Dylan. He's doing awesome. And I've got two that I've got duties. I have things that I have to do. I have to pay taxes. I can't just leave, right? So how do you do that? One of the things that Robin said was, in a monastery, one of the things that they did was they taught the Jesus prayer so that when you did physical tasks, let's say washing the dishes or working in the garden or doing some calligraphy and copying, when you did that, you began, and especially things that were difficult for you, you began to merge all of those three when you did a task, a physical task, and use the Jesus prayer while you were doing it. So, for instance, when I got home from my very first retreat back in 2002 with Robin, hey Emily, would you grab that bench, my prayer bench, for me right there? I want to show you something. I began to do some woodworking. Now, I'm terrible at it, right? Thank you. I'm terrible at it, but I built this. This is my prayer bench. Okay. I have spent the last 20 years on this prayer bench. This is 12 inches high. A prayer bench should be 12 to 24 inches high. And this is smoothed down, right? I began to work with wood, and I began to do that by using the Jesus prayer while I was sawing, while I was doing the woodwork, and it worked. Okay. It worked. And using the Jesus prayer on a conscious level, to the point where, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And that's the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. When we do that, we begin to center all of those three centers within us, and something happens. Attention is put on those centers, and the mind is cleared, and you're allowing this energy, this spiritual energy, which Teilhard de Chardin calls radial energy, radial, not tangential energy. Let me talk about that for a minute. Two types of energy, and he's talking about the second law of thermodynamics here, where energy dissipates naturally. Well, Teilhard is talking about this energy that doesn't start at a center and go out like heated water that eventually cools. He's talking about energy that goes to the center, and that's where the Christique element comes in. If you can figure out a way to focus this energy, so that you build it up and you build it up. One of the things that is so important about this is that we find methods. And that's one of the things I want to do on our retreats and during these live live opportunities here on YouTube, which is awesome, is beginning to discuss how we do that. Now, something maybe in your life that you can do that you're not used to doing. It's something that you're going to be using your motor skills so that you can focus, and you're building the energy. This building of the energy is so important. It is a collecting of the radial energy that we already have. There is so much of our energy. By the way, got a question here. Do you believe there is anyone living who has achieved the level of being as Gurdjieff? Wow, that is a good question. Yes, I do. I believe that I've met a few people in Ted's groups, including Ted, I think, who is reaching this level. And I do. It's very, very difficult to see. They're very difficult to, it's a good question, actually. It's very difficult to see this. One of the keys to Christianity is this, and this is where Christianity has gotten off track. One of the keys of Christianity is that it's passed from person to person. And that's what I'm trying to do with this. I'm trying to pass this on to you all from Charles and from Robin and from Ted. And this is not something that you can learn in a book. This is something that is a lifelong process of being. And it is a development of this logos. It is a development of this magnetic center. One of the ways that I tapped into my magnetic center was this. I suffered. I went through a period where I was going through a divorce, and it has all turned out great. But while I was doing that, I was very frightened that I was going to lose touch with my son, who was 18 months old. And instead of becoming bogged down in negative emotions, which is one of the greatest ways to lose energy, is fear, anger, loathing, all these, lust, all these, the 7 deadly sins. That's what those are based on. And instead of immersing myself in those negative emotions and becoming bitter, I made a choice. I was about 35 years old. I made a choice, and I had already been to see Robin one time, but I made a choice to do two things. I began to write, and that's why I've written several books. I've written a couple books about Charles Ashton, and I decided to write, but the most important thing was I decided to pray. So at least one time a day, most likely I would do it in the middle of the night, around 2 or 3 in the morning. I would get up and I would use this bench and I would pray. And I prayed and I prayed. Hey, Em, would you get me cough drop there in the I would sit there and I would use the Jesus prayer. And I just said to God, all right, it's you and me. We're going to do this. And I'm not leaving until you bless me. Who's that sound like? I'm not going to leave until I find out what's going on. Right? And I, over and over and over again, I said, what is it? I want to hear. Thank you. What is it? And I didn't give up. And after a while, and I talked to Robin about this, after a while, an energy would come over me. And this energy that would come over me started here in my in the solar plexus. And it would rise up and it would encompass me, my whole head. And within that time frame that I was doing this in Westphalia, Indiana, in the middle of nowhere out there where I was living at the time, time stood still. And I just lost all track of time. And most of the time when I did this, I would cry and the tears would come, but it was from a different part of my eyes. It wasn't here. It was from the middle part. And my eyes would just be streaming with tears. And I wasn't thinking about why I was sad. I wasn't thinking about what emotion I had. I just was this calls the tears of repentance. And this trial by fire is what Robin called it. And I remember telling him this all through the fourth way, especially Moravia, talks about the metal filings. I want to speak of this. And Gnosis 1 blew me away. All of the Moravia Gnosis books, I don't know if any of you have gotten them, but the Gnosis books are absolutely amazing. These Gnosis books, in that first one, Moravia talks about the metal filings, and he uses this description of all of these just shavings of metal put into like a can or a glass, and they're all going different directions. What we need is energy. We need pressure. We need something to transform all of those into one solid piece of metal again. In other words, to melt them down. And when we melt those down, that's when the logos occurs. That's when the magnetic center occurs. And that's when you are able to begin to get these communications from the other side. And you begin to get the gifts that you are given. Charles Ashton was clairvoyant. That's one of the reasons why he was very unpopular with the other professors there at Christian Theological Seminary in the 80s and 90s, well, 70s and 80s, was because he could actually read minds. And he did this countless times with different people, different students, and they were blown away by it. We are given gifts. We are given gifts that are individual gifts just for us. And these gifts are custom made for you. And that's one of the things that Charles was keen on, was saying, these our characteristics, our personalities are so important to God. We're not called to be robotic replicas of Jesus Christ. We're not called just to have Jesus die on the cross for our sins, and then we're going to say, oh, well, thank you, Jesus, for doing that. And then we feel guilty, and that's why we go to church, and that's why we take communion, because we feel guilty for God doing all the work, and we don't have to do any of the work. That's one of the things that bothers me the most about Christianity, is this idea that God has done everything and grace takes it all and we don't have to do anything. What I have experienced is I have to do all this work. I have to get out there and work on myself. And I have to climb up on the cross. I have to be that Christ in my own life. And I have to be the one that says, all right, what do I have to sacrifice? Christ sacrificed all this. I have to be the one who sacrifices. And what do I have to give? Well, the thing that I had to give in my own life was this dream that I had, that I wanted a family and, and a house and a white picket fence and, a car in the garage and this American dream and all this, garbage. All this stuff I possessed it. I wanted it. I wanted it just so I could look good or whatever it was. And I had to sacrifice that. The most important thing, that's why I suffered, because I gave up something that was valuable to me. And that valuable thing was kind of an egotistical way of looking at the world. I wanted to have this. And I had to say the most important thing to me at the time was my 18-month-old son, Dylan. I had to give him up and say, I'm going to have to pray for him from afar. I'm going to have to love him without him being in the next room. I'm going to have to learn how to, in humility, let that go. And giving up all of these things. Hey, Rosario, giving up all of those things and just saying to God, I want to be useful. Robin had this idea that was called the aristocracy of service. And I love this. The aristocracy of service. First of all, I want to get to it says, aside from the Jesus prayer, do you recommend other forms of prayer? I've tried using the Orthodox prayer books. Yeah, I mean, it's there's no magic potion with the Jesus prayer. If you want to find a psalm, if you want to find your own prayer, you can. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, is perfect, because it Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, on the inhalation, have mercy on me, a sinner, on the exhalation. So it's in and out, and that is one of the ancient prayers that you can do. But you can pick anything. There's no set. All of this has to do with you finding your own rhythm, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you find your own rhythm in this, so that you can develop this logos, this magnetic center, and to be able to be there with you as you approach some things in your life that maybe you need to give up, maybe you need to sacrifice. And working with something new in terms of maybe a hobby, something that you're doing with your hands, so that you are merging all of those three centers, because you can't go to a monastery. You can't go, you have to actually merge those three centers. And Carol says she uses the New Zealand prayer book. All of this, there's no set way to do this, but there's the there is a the synergia, the law of synergia, which Robin taught me, which is this. The law of synergia says this: if you take a step toward God, let's say today you get off this live and you say, hey, I'm going to go out and do some gardening, I'm going to do something different, work on the car or something, and you do it, and you say the Jesus prayer just one time. When you do it, amazing things will happen. Now, why do I say that? When you take a step toward God, this is the law of synergia. When you take a step toward God, God automatically, according to the Orthodox, God automatically takes a step toward you. And I use this a lot in sermons, and people just sort of like, what are you talking about? It's an amazing thing, because if you make these authentic steps toward God, there's an authentic step toward you from the creator of the universe. And then you do it. Then it's your turn. Then it's God's turn. Then it's your turn. And back and forth and back and forth. That's the radial energy that is built up. And that's what this is all talking about. One of the things that I have learned, and this is one of the things, reasons I'm kind of doing stuff on my own, is people can get caught up in books. People can get caught up in reading about it. I've got 900 books, big deal. If I don't apply this stuff to my life, if I don't apply these things, then it's worthless. If I don't have love come through my heart and through my mind after having developed a magnetic center, what's the point? What's the point? I know people in the Fourth Way movement, and I know people in the Orthodox, and I know so many ministers, and so many Christians who are they're not allowing this to change them. They're not allowing it to change them. And that's the point of this. This is the fruit that we're after. If it doesn't change you, what are you doing this for? So this is what these are going to be for, is the application of these. And this is one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to not just talk about the intellectual side of this, but I wanted to give you these ideas on what you can do, this practical way that you can go out. I'm talking about even if you're going to do the dishes, which I really should do. You get in there and you do the Jesus prayer while you're doing the dishes. And you do it and you do it just over and over and over again. This repetition is so important. So I really want to, I want to encourage you to make a step towards you. Hey, Carol and Mary, good to see you. This application is so vital. So it is already, we've been in, 37 minutes already. The time has been flying. We've got 14 on and it's awesome. So do you have any questions for me in terms of anything else, any suggestions on anything else to do with the Jesus prayer, the reading, anything that you would like to see us do? I could do these YouTube live once a month if you'd like. We could begin to talk about an actual place where we could do retreats. I do have a place in mind that we could do them. It's in Indiana, that a few of us could meet and begin to apply some of this more. It's in a beautiful classified forest. There's a cabin. We could begin to talk about this, but we could also do a Zoom call after a few of these YouTube lives, so that we can begin to see each other and you can speak and we can have some give and take. And I'm just here to be helpful. If you feel like you are ready to go on to it, someone else or some other teaching or something else, that's totally fine. I am here to be helpful to you, to pass these things on just as it was passed on to me, because this absolutely changed my life, and I still feel this presence of Charles and of Robin. And I guess as we kind of get to a place where we can close this today, I want to say this. If we're going to pass over to the next existence, if we're going to pass over to the next life, which I firmly believe this, we have to have a development of the magnetic center. You have to have a development of the Logos. I am not someone who believes in universal salvation. I don't believe that it's as simple as, a loving God wouldn't condemn us to hell. It's not that simple. And I see a lot of that where it's just like, well, I don't understand anything, so everyone gets in. It's not what I'm talking about. If we are going to pass over to the next side, and this is coming from stuff that Charles Ashton told me right before he died. If we're going to pass over, you have to have this development, and you have to put these efforts in. And these efforts, just like the law of synergy, these efforts do not go unnoticed. There is another world out there. There's another reality that we cannot see because these bodies almost cloak us from that. There is another reality. And Charles, right before he passed away in 2000, March of 2000, he said, those people who think that this world is all there is are so wrong. And he talked about, he looked at me and he said, an angel visited me, and he visited my room, and he saw it. Trust me, folks, there is a whole nother world out there. This existence that we have here is meant to prepare ourselves for that passing over. And we need help. I'm a firm believer in angels, firm believer in guardian angels in particular, that each one of you has a guardian angel that has gotten you to this point right now. I have one. I know, I absolutely, I know who it is. And I'm in touch with that guardian angel. And that's something else that we can begin to talk about. There is this whole unseen world that goes beyond the logic that we are taught, that you have to develop this way of seeing. You have to develop this way of being here on this earth and releasing all of this, all these negative emotions, all the karma that you have built up. One of the greatest ways to alleviate yourself from karma is the 12-step program of the Alcoholics Anonymous. I work with recovering alcoholics and drug addicts in Indiana for almost 12 years. And that 12-step program, we could use that here in our group as a way of addressing the karma that we each build up in our lives, because the 12-step beautifully puts our life in perspective with God and says, oh my goodness, I have all these resentments. I have all these people I need to say I'm sorry to. I have all these character defects, and it's giving that up, giving those up. And we have all these things which burden us down. All of these negative energies that just continue to hold us down. I mean, even now, today and tomorrow, there's this huge solar storm that is occurring. All of this, all of these pressures that each one of us has, how do you make it through there? You need to develop new ways of seeing, not with your eyes. Do you mean in touch with guardian by sensation or some communication? Christianity at its essence is a psychological religion. So I'm really talking about more of a telepathic connection, more of a sense of being able to get past all the clutter and the mutter of your typical life where you're daydreaming all the time. The Jesus prayer helps you shed all that so that you can hear things. And it is a development. And we can talk more about that, because at first I had no clue what they were talking about. And then, it hits you. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that that I have done is in terms of Carol talks about the idea of suffering, the suffering and the acknowledgement of it, which is what the 12 steps helps you get through, helps alleviate this and helps you leave it behind. Christ talks about this all the time. Christ is still it for me. let the dead bury the dead. When Christ says that, let the dead bury the dead, we have so much death that we hold on to, so many old, horribly painful things that we hold on to through resentment and fear and anger. And if we could just let go of that, then we could see clearly. We could see clearly what is going on in our life, and you can better navigate where you're going, because without that, you get bogged down in your old karma. And one of the ways you know that you're getting bogged down in your old karma is that you keep going to the same scenarios, and the people are the only thing that's different are the people's names. You just get yourself caught up in the same problems, the same issues over and over again. And we need to burst out of this cycle, this circular cycle, because that's what this is. In the the rays of creation, in the fourth way, there are these gaps that need to be jumped over, because otherwise we're just going in circles. We're just going in circles, and we don't have any way of jumping over that moat, right? Jumping over the water, jumping over that chasm. Kierkegaard knew about this. Kierkegaard, I know, Thomas, if you're listening, Kierkegaard would love this. This is the leap of faith that he talked about in Fear and Trembling. And, it was a struggle for Kierkegaard to make this leap of faith. And so there's just so much more to talk to you all about, and it's just such an awesome thing to be here with you. We're reached the 45-minute mark, so I'm gonna. Does anybody else have any more questions before we say once a month would be awesome, with Zoom even better? Rosaria says, yeah, that's awesome. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and I will plan on something for November for a YouTube live, and then at that one we can talk about a Zoom, because one of the things that we need to do here is not just get bogged down in me talking. I want to hear from you, and I want to see you. I want to hear about your experiences, and so that we can kind of build this community here and really begin to take care of one another, because that's what this is about. Blessings to you all. It's just been awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a great group. So if you have any questions, I'll post this on the YouTube channel, and just on any of these. I know that the recent videos, I've been doing these YouTube shorts, and those are kind of annoying in that they're only 15 seconds, but I'm trying to reach some different people through YouTube, and it's working a little bit, but I'm going to continue to do these longer videos. But definitely with this great showing here today, that we're going to continue to do this. So I will let you know when the next YouTube live is. I'll look at my schedule, and we'll do this again probably on this Saturday morning, probably toward the end of November. So blessings to you all. Anybody have any final word? All right. Well, as you go about your day and you're working on some of the Jesus prayer and some of these new tasks, I will be praying with you and for you. And let's just continue to build this this online community here through this YouTube channel. So thank you so much for your loyalty, and thank you so much for everyone's involvement. It's been great. And I will see you next time, and blessings to you. All right. Take care.